This is the place where God shows the brevity of life. This is the place where the enemy wants to snuff you out immensely and perpetually so that you will never have opportunity to launch an attack against him. This is the place where death is dispelled from the people of God and from the plans that God has for your life. This is to say that I shall not die but live and declare the works of the Lord. This is the place where the devil is defeated, that life will be extended unto you. The mountains were given to each army for a direct view over the battlefield, and God wants you to take a greater height. Listen in him. Stop dwelling in the valley of your despair. Ascend to the hills of the Lord, where you can look out on the battlefield and see exactly what the enemy is doing, and route your prayers to the place that is weakest to shore it up for strength, that you might gain a victory. When you pray in a certain way and you see the enemy change and shifts, he understands that you're praying. But what we do, we continue to pray the same prayer. And strategically, what we need to recognize is that when we see that the prayer has worked in one area, but the situation is still yet not over with, then we need to learn to be flexible enough to shift our forces in prayer to the area that is now coming under attack and would fail. See, the thing is, what the enemy does along the battle lines, he looks for the weakest area in that battle line so that he can get through to the head and take out the forces that are in reserve, to take out your thought processes, to keep you from thinking clearly, to see what he's about to do. And you've got to keep your eyes open to what's going on the battlefield and not fall into despair. You've got to be strong in the Lord in the power of his might. And you must gird up your loins with strength and say, I'm not going to allow this to shake me. I'm not going to allow this to move me, but I must strengthen myself to see that I must be a general that is thinking quickly on his feet and moving on with my battle plans to defeat the enemy. Now, verse 4. And there went out a champion. See, this is what the devil really wants to do here. Listen. And there went out a champion out of the camp of the Philistines named Goliath of Gath, whose height was 6 cubits and a span. Let me take my time and break down this verse. And there went a champion. This is a person who has never been defeated. He has defeated all of his opponents. He is the champion of death. He is gifted to kill and make widows and parents of women and parents childless. He is also a spirit that rapes the land and takes what he thinks is his, but what belongs to another. He is a robber. He comes in to destroy homes and lives and inflict much pain. He is not only defending his homeland of Philistine, but he wants to gain something for the very homes of hell. He is defending the homelands of hell with a heartfelt and full to honor its orders completely. He wants to follow its orders completely. Now, whenever something goes on, the first thing the devil does is to offer you something massive. Goliath, name means exile or expulsion from one's native land and prolonged separation from one's homeland. This wasn't a normal human being. He was huge. This was a spirit of separation from its normal state to antagonize. Listen, it was separated from its original estate, and its sole purpose is to antagonize humanity. And it's a person or a thing of colossal size, and the size of it, listen, would make you think or believe that you cannot compete with it, or control it, or destroy it, or defeat it. The colossal size is to cause a visual and mental image to be struck and to be imposed into your psyche, for you to see the impossibilities or the inability to move and to do things. This is the place where God has given you ideas after ideas, and you become defeated in your approach to it because you think that you're not equipped or have the tools or the ability to do so. You think that whatever you put your hands to do will be cursed because it will not flourish. It will not be fruitful. It will not materialize. This is the place where people don't think that someone can be healed because the doctor has told them they only have a certain amount of time to live. The colossalness of the things that the enemy brings into our psyche and our minds and our spaces to cause us not to look unto God, the author and the finisher of our faith, but to look to the words of what someone has said or the impossibilities of a certain thing. God doesn't deal in what we see and how colossal or huge we may see a thing, but God sees it in the spirit realm, how he chooses to deal with it. Now, this spirit was abnormal. It was a paranormal spirit in nature. This man was not normal. Listen, he was not normal. He was strange in nature because of his size and his abilities. And he was extremely and excessively large. But Gath means, he was from Gath, means a wine press. In other words, I'm going to press as much life out of you as possible. I may not kill you, but mentally I'm going to demoralize you. I'm going to incapacitate you, and I'm going to cause you not to be mobile. I'm going to strike fear in you that you will not move. And because I'm massive in size, my voice, the bass in my voice is going to intimidate you in my words. And when you see my size, then you're going to have fear imposed into your psyche. And as we go through this, listen to what he wore. And he had a helmet of brass upon his head. And he was armed with a coat of mail. And the weight of the coat was 5,000 shekels. Listen. Because of his massive size, he was about 9 feet, 9 inches, about 10 feet tall. And he probably weighed a good amount of weight. But listen, his coat of mail, which is a chain link that you've seen in some of the ancient movies where kings and knights are warring, and you see this chain-like type coat, that's called a coat of mail. In this case, Goliath's coat of mail weighed, 126 pounds. Most of an average body weight for most of us. 126 pounds. Now, when I was in the military, we used to wear, or our backpacks, when we got our full issue of everything that we had, was about 70 pounds. And to walk and to run with that, and at the time, I was probably about 130 pounds, 140, no more than that, just out of high school. And running with this backpack, it was very difficult to do and to march with it. But yet here was a man that was marching around, walking with a coat of mail that was 126 pounds. Almost double what I've just explained to you. And being a small person, it was very difficult. But for him, this was a very light thing. It probably felt maybe a little bit heavier to him than this jacket that I have on. But it wasn't difficult for him to move around. And the mail, coat of mail was designed so that you could move easily and swiftly. It wasn't as rigid as armor was. But yet it served its purpose to stop sword strikes as well as arrows and things of that nature. But he also wore a brass of helmet. And this is a mark of true brazenness, covering his information center, mind of his own, that he's going to do whatever he think. He don't care that God has blessed you with something. But brazenly, he's going to come up against you to take what God has granted unto you, what God has blessed you with. He doesn't care what the ramifications are, the outcome of it for you. He doesn't care how it would take away from your quality of life. He doesn't care about that at all. Verse 6, and he had greaves of brass upon his legs and a target of brass between his shoulders. Now, the grease was to protect his feet or his shins from attacks. Your enemy is always trying to find a way to protect himself. Always trying to find a way to make sure that he gains a greater advantage over you. So that he is running with swiftness, that any attack that you launch against him that will stop his forward advancement cannot stop him or defeat him. But you've got to learn to go for what is key and what will bring him down. And he had a target of brass. This is a shield or a small buckler. A buckler is a smaller shield, usually about this wide around, whereas a shield is much bigger and covers a much more of an area. A buckler usually is to move quickly to stop sword strikes. Again, hitting the body would hit the buckler instead of the body, which means that this was a much lighter piece of equipment, but it moved quickly. And also verse 7 says, and the staff of his spear was like a weaver's beam. If you look at a loom, and some of you may not know what a loom is what's used to cause materials or threads to form materials to make clothing out of cloth, to make materials out of. This was something that was believed to be about 9 feet and 2.5 inches in diameter. So it's about 9 feet tall. This is just the beam. The beam alone would intimidate. All this stuff is designed to intimidate you and to strike fear. And the spear's head weighed 600 shekels of iron. This was about 15 pounds by itself. And he also had an armor bearer walking before him as if he really needed an armor bearer to go in front of him. And I question some of us sometime in ministry. We have an armor bearer, but we don't fully understand what an armor bearer really is. We think that's just a person to wait on us to make us look good. But this is a person that militaristically, spiritually, should be a warrior himself. It's just not only to wait. This should be a person that prays intensely, that knows what's coming before you, and can stop some of the attacks that are coming up against you. But too many times we just have those persons just to look good, and we assign anybody to these positions, but yet we don't fully understand what an armor bearer's purpose is. And we should really pray and ask God to reveal the purpose of this armor bearer. Now, he could dish out fear, but was concerned for his life, because if he came out unexposed, he knew what was going to happen to him. Your enemy is never going to come out and immediately expose themselves. So you're going to have to go fishing in the spirit to find out what spirit is attacking you or your family or your situation. And you're going to have to fish him out and draw him into the open in order to fight him and to engage this spirit or spirits. Spirits love to hide behind host spirits, anchor spirits, spirits that are just sent in to gain an advantage and an opening. And the scriptures say that once a house has been cleaned, that a spirit that has been dislodged will come back and try to find an opening. And when it finds that its defenses are torn down, it will bring even 7 more spirits that are far more wicked than what they were. So this thing is serious. This whole spirit hides behind. The strong spirit hides behind the weaker spirits. And a lot of times when you're in deliverance ministry, when persons are being delivered, what you see are the host spirit or the weaker spirits, the lesser spirits. And the stronger spirit, a lot of times it takes time and energy for them to come to the surface and be revealed, unless someone is completely in tune with God and walking with him and has the strength in themselves that they can deal with this spirit correctly and effectively and move on with it.